The Great Kapok Tree by Lynn Cherry.
When the reader opens this book, they see the map of the rainforest. The map itself is a visual argument for how little space the rainforest actually occupies on our vast planet.
Dear readers,
the author writes a letter to the readers at the beginning of the text so that we feel an immediate, deeper connection to the text and to the author herself.
I wrote the Great Kapok Tree to let the world know what happens to the rainforest creatures and to the entire planet when rainforests are destroyed.
The author chooses the kapok tree because it's so large. The immense nature of the tree allows it to hold a host of inhabitants.
I hope that after reading this book, you will help save the rainforests. The Great Kapok Tree is about the Amazon rainforest, a tropical rainforest, but we have temperate rainforests in the Pacific Northwest in the United States that we must protest too. To save acres in the tropical rainforest, write The Children's Rainforest, P.O. Box 936, Lewiston, Maine 04240. Please care for Mother Earth. Together we can make a difference. Lynn Cherry, 1993.
Ms. Cherry is an environmentalist and the founder and director of Young Voices for the Planet. She has written many books for children so they will grow up and take a stand to support environmental policy issues. This presents a bias effect on her literature.
She writes in the voice of the animals to get an emotional response from children. A child's emotional response will force parents to pay attention and answer questions about rainforests.
In the Amazon rainforest, it is always hot, and in that heat, everything grows and grows and grows.
The author wants the reader to realize how alive the Amazon rainforest is and that we should think twice before damaging that life.
The tops of the trees in the rainforest are called the canopy. The canopy is a sunny place that touches the sky. The animals that live there like lots of light. Colorful parrots fly from tree to tree. Monkeys leap from branch to branch. The bottom of the rainforest is called the understory. The animals that live in the understory like darkness. There, silent snakes curl around hanging vines. Graceful jaguars watch and wait. And in this steamy environment, the Great Kapok Tree shoots up through the forest and emerges above the canopy. This is the story of a community of animals that live on such tree in the rainforest.
Throughout the text, the author uses the same formula for the appearance of each creature. The creature appears beside the man and makes the argument of why the tree should be protected.
This repetition represents two ideas. One, that nature should exist beside man. Civilization and nature can and should exist side by side. Two, each animal present a valid logical argument for not cutting down the kapok tree.
This book is dedicated to the memory of Chico Mendez, who gave his life in order to preserve a part of the rainforest.
Chico Mendez was a human rights activist who famously said, "At first I thought I was fighting to save rubber trees. Then I thought I was fighting to save the Amazon rainforest. Now I realize I'm fighting for humanity."
The dedication of this text makes an argument against the man and supports the idea that we should show more support to the real working man.
Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys.
Humans tend to disrupt the life around them without noticing their impact.
Now, all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to a great kapok tree. Then he left. The smaller man took the axe and carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack.
By using onomatopoeia, the author helps the reader become part of the story by using words that help visualize the destruction that is happening to the kapok tree.
The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The woods of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest at the foot of the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and the hum of the forest had lulled him to sleep.
The author uses sensory imagery, like the heat and the hum, to make the reader feel like the forest is alive.
The author also makes the argument that if we just stop and listen, we would be more able to enjoy the life that exists around us.
The boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree.
The author uses personification to make the boa constrictor seem human. Instead of saying it, the author refers to the boa as he.
Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear, "Senor."
Throughout the text, the author uses the word senor. This could refer to the man as an authoritative figure We could draw the connection that the man, who represents the population, is responsible for nature.
This tree is a tree of miracles.
The use of the word miracle strikes a chord with our emotions. What could be in the tree? What could it cure? How could it be a miracle?
It is my home, where generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down.
The word generations makes the reader think about their own family history. This adds pathos to the argument. We feel for our family and are connected to our family's history.
A bee.
It is interesting that the author uses something as small as a bee. This could be to tell the reader that no matter how small or insignificant they feel, they are important in the larger scope of life.
The bee actually holds the forest together by collecting and spreading pollen. We can do the same by collecting and spreading information.
Buzzed in the sleeping man's ear, Senor, my hive is in this kapok tree.
The author uses first person as she writes from the animal's perspective. This makes the reader actually buy into the idea that these are the animal's real thoughts.
And I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower collecting pollen.
The author uses repetition, tree to tree and flower to flower, to help readers understand the immensity of the rainforest.
In this way, I pollinate the trees and flowers throughout the rainforest.
The author uses an inartistic approach through logos in this sentence, telling exactly what the bee does, not necessarily using emotion.
You see, all living things depend on one another.
The author is asking people to consider the larger picture. Every step, every move we take affects someone or something else.
A troop of monkeys scampered down the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man. Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another.
The message is much larger than just this simple tree. As humans, when given an inch, we have a tendency to take a mile. This is actually a larger comment about human greed in general.
The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rain comes, the soil will be washed away and the forest will become a desert.
The author uses artistic appeals through pathos with the three birds. The idea of black and smoldering ruins makes the reader feel and see what happens.
A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear. Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives, many ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree.
The author sends the message that by chopping down trees, animals will be left homeless. This leaves the reader wondering how their own homes are more important than taking away the homes of all these animals.
A jaguar had been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree.
The author only highlights one jaguar because they are on the endangered species list.
Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and padded silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear, Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner?
The author uses the idea of light and dark. The jaguar is a top predator in the rainforest, and many of these animals are his prey. Yet he sets his hunger aside as the kapok tree is more important for all.
This shows that even when the animals have problems, they can still come together for the benefit of all, and so should we as human beings.
4 tree porcupines swung down from branch to branch and whispered to the man, Senor, do you know that we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest, you will destroy that which gives us all life.
The author uses pathos by referring to oxygen. Not only do porcupines need oxygen, but all readers of this book need oxygen to live.
Several anteaters climbed down the kapok tree with their young clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought for the future, and surely you know that what happens tomorrow depends upon what you do today. The big man tell you to chop down a beautiful tree.
Using the words the big man is possibly a reference back to Chico Mendes.
He does not think of his own children who tomorrow must live in a world without trees.
Although exaggerating, this forces the reader to think about our own tomorrow without trees. A larger argument that exists here is that we must care for what we have now so it exists in our future and for future generations.
A 3-toed sloth had begun climbing down the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground. Plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man, she spoke in her deep and lazy voice, Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroyed the beauty of the rainforest, on what would you feast your eyes? A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, "Señor, when you are awake, please look upon us all with new eyes."
This idea of looking upon us with new eyes is for all of us, to consider others' lives from new and different perspectives.
The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depend upon the great kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. The man looked around and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of their flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor. But he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely silent. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree. Suddenly he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. He hesitated.
The author hopes that after reading the story that we also have a change of heart and realize how our actions often harm the environment. The author wants us, as readers, to hesitate.
Then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest.
The author makes us wonder how easy it is to walk away from this bad decision. He simply walks away and the reader is left wondering what happens next. The author leaves the story open-ended, reinforcing the concept of what effect our own next steps have on the rainforest.
Lynn Cherry traveled to the Amazon rainforest in Brazil to research the illustrations for the great kapok tree. As she sat by the jungle stream, a troop of monkeys swinged through the trees above her head. A paca scurried by her feet, and a hummingbird hovered only a few feet away.
This shows the author is educated in this area. It shows good moral character, good sense, and goodwill.
She wrote and illustrated the great kapok tree to give her readers a glimpse of the awesome beauty of the rainforest and marvelous creatures that inhabit it, and to remind them that it is being destroyed at an alarming rate.
The layout of this book presents obvious arguments.
The color of the text contains a lot of green, which represents life.
The book also contains colorful animals that live in the rainforest, so the children that are reading or listening are enjoying what is there.
The words are placed on a blank white page representing civilization. This shows a sharp contrast between how the rainforest and the rest of civilization is represented.
The repetition that is used in the text to help reinforce the simple idea of saving the rainforest. It is a singular argument posed over and over and over again.
This book is obviously about saving the rainforest, even though at no point does the author just come out and say save the rainforest.
We conclude this idea through the pictures and dialogue from each of the characters that the author is working toward the conservation of the rainforest for the good of all creature and mankind.